The Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana, TTAG, says it will resist any attempt by government to scrap off their allowance and replace it with the student loan scheme. Addressing a press conference in Accra, the association lamented scrapping of the allowance would undermine quality training. The association recalled proposals made by the Ministry of Education on June 22, 2013 to scrap off the allowance. They claim to have cited documents from government to introduce the student loan scheme to replace the trainee allowance. The training teachers have described the move as unfortunate.
We strongly believe that the abolishment of the allowance scheme is not the best means of addressing the situation, as it will rather lead to a drastic decrease of enrollment of applicants into colleges of education. It will also prevent most brilliant but needy students who could not afford university education the opportunity to attain tertiary education.
Already, training teachers in the Volta region are threatening a strike action by close of the week. They are up in arms against government attempts to scrap off their allowance. The association has called on government to provide policies on education.
We suggest that the government should draw a clear-cut national educational policy which will be devoid of any individual or group of persons using our educational system to achieve their personal and parochial interests.
So you heard the national president of the Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana, Mohammed Amin Naziru, and he's joined me in the studio to talk more on the subject. Good afternoon and welcome to our studios.
Good afternoon, thank you very much.
All right, so in the submission I listened to, you mentioned that the underprivileged will not have the opportunity to go through that, but the loan scheme is a loan.
Yeah, you understand that the loan scheme is a loan, but with the allowance scheme, you don't repay it, but the loan scheme, you are going to repay it. And we understand the fact that the allowance scheme has done a lot of which the loan scheme cannot do.
Like what exactly?
Like a teacher trainee need to acquire TLM and send it to the classroom.
TLM?
TLM, this is teaching and learning material.
Exactly.
We have now moved from the abstract way of teaching to the more practical way, where a teacher trainee need to acquire this teaching and learning material, send it to the classroom for the individual or the younger one to understand the teaching. But if you don't have this money, which is acquired from the allowance, then it means that you are not going to get this.
But isn't it just, a simple case of teachers refusing to be trainee, let me put it in quotes, to be responsible of some sort? Because if government gives you loan and you pay back, there's some sort of responsibility on your shoulder. But because this allowance is free, you don't really use it for the things you claim you're going to use it for.
I strongly disagree with this as the national president of Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana. And this is because, you see, one thing we need to understand is teacher training colleges in Ghana are not universities, nor are they polytechnics. They are a subset of the tertiary education system in the country, and they must be treated as such. Teacher training college, we are a unique type of tertiary. We believe so, because if you look at like the police training colleges, they are given free uniform, free accommodation, free feeding. This is because of the morality and the uniqueness that is attached to their profession. And we, teacher training education too, we believe that the morality and the uniqueness that is attached to our profession, we deserve this allowance, and we believe that with this allowance, we can also improve upon the teaching skills that will bring up the younger ones for the incoming generation.
What would you say to someone who says that, the times are changing and so we should change with the time, and that as institutions, I'm sure the way our teachers used to teach some 20 years ago is not the same as they are teaching now.
Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, why was the allowance instituted? And has the allowance succeeded in achieving the reason why it was instituted, and why the scrapping off of the allowance? If we are able to answer these questions, then your question will come in. Because the reason why the allowance was instituted is because they want to bring it as a form of motivation, incentive to bring in the underprivileged ones to get into the teaching profession. Now, if you scrap up the allowance, and I know that I'm attending the College of Education to get a diploma, with the same qualification, I can send it to the university to get a degree. Then it means that the brilliant ones who are supposed to also go through the teaching channel will now be directing their attention to the universities. And that will mean that the teaching profession in some years to come will lack best and professional teachers.
Very well. Before I come to my next question, I'm inviting your comments to our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. What do you make of the stance by the Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana to resist any attempt by government to scrap off their allowance and replace it with a student loan, which is given to university students? Yeah. So what? But if you look at it on that scale, that you have underprivileged students going to the university and they benefit from the student loan scheme, and they are given ample time to pay back. Isn't it the same, or you just want to have preferential treatment because you claim that the police service, they have a different form of, they get uniforms, they get other allowances for free? So you just want to be in the freebie zone?
No, it's not like being in the freebie zone. But the fact is that when we talk of a tertiary with uniqueness, that is what we want to base our attention on. Tertiary with uniqueness, where the government can see that we are unique with the morality component of our tertiary, and we deserve that.
Very well. So now, a very big thank you to you, and he's the national president of the Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana, and of course, if government goes through with that, so what do you intend to do really if government decides to push through with it?
Well, I must be frank with you. We said clearly yesterday that we are giving the government up to 23rd September. If the government is not calling us to the table to have a discussion with we the leaders as to the way forward, we are not totally against the government's decision to scrap off the allowance, but we believe we are also stakeholders and we should have been consulted. The government or the stakeholders or the policymakers of this decision of scrapping off the allowance never took the teacher training leadership into consideration.
Okay, so you are open for talks.
That is it.
They are open for talks. So it's not a complete, you haven't taken an entrenched position. Yes. They want government to factor them into the decision. Well, if the government does not respond, we will also push the government. I must be frank with you. Very, very well. Thank you very much. And that's Naziru. He's the national president of the Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana. I did say earlier on that we have